Hey guys, what's going on? Sherman here. And I have a knife review for you guys today. I know it's been a while since I've done a knife review. I'm sure some of you are wondering, does he even have any more knives left to review? Oh yeah. I have a bunch more knives that I have not reviewed yet. But don't worry guys, I'm getting around to it. I've just been busy lately. I've been getting some new gear in, and I'm going to test and review that very shortly. And also been dealing with some more computer troubles. Every time I would import a video into Movie Maker, the audio would be off by about 3 seconds, which is unreal. If my last video I uploaded of like what is being a prepper, the audio was real off in that video for some reason. So I've been trying to work that out. So I'm gonna see how this goes. The audio may be out of sync with the video here. Not sure. All right, let's get started. This is the Ganzo G704. Now, I never did an unboxing of this knife. I never even did a video on it. But I've had this knife for about a month now. And I must say, there are a lot of flaws with this knife, but I never went into it expecting much. Now, I don't want you guys to think it's a bad knife. I'll go over some of the flaws with it here shortly, but I just want to stress the fact that the issues I have with my particular one may not be the case with every knife. You may get this exact knife and it may be perfect. It may be flawless for you. The one I got may not be a prime specimen, if you will. Like I said, the one I got had some fit and finish issues, but I'll go over that in the review. Now, I got this knife going into it. I bought this knife because this is a copy of the Benchmade H&K 15205, or 14205, I'm sorry. Model 14205. It was a Benchmade knife under the marquee of H&K, a Snowdy design. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen those knives. Go Google them. They've long since been discontinued. But something about the knife just struck me. I love the looks of it, but back in the day when you could still get them almost anywhere, that was back when I first started collecting knives. Now, when I first started collecting knives, there was just something about the 14205 that I had to have. That was a knife that was on my list pretty much since the beginning of my knife collecting days. I wanted it extremely bad, but back then it was about $130, somewhere around there. And back in that time, I couldn't imagine even spending $80 on a knife. So, back then my most expensive knife was probably a Delica. So, it was just way out of my price range, and by the time that I could afford one, they were discontinued. So, I got this knife just because it took me back. It kind of made me feel nostalgic. This is a copy of a 4-year-old knife that I never got a chance to own. Like I said, this is a copy. This is not a counterfeit. I'll go over that here in a minute. But it is an exact replica of the HK 14205. So this is kind of my way to, just see what the knife was like. Now, is this exactly like it? No, absolutely not. Because that was a $130 knife. I paid $20 for this on eBay. One was made by Benchmade. This one is made by Ganzo. Or Ganzo, however you want to pronounce that. Alright, Ganzo or Ganzo is a Chinese company, and I'm really not sure. I did not research it. I believe they are a sister company of Sanrenmu. I'm sure most of you guys have heard about that, the Chinese knife company that makes like the Hinderer, the Sebenza copies. Now, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've been told by a few other sources, at least with Sanrenmu, I'm not sure about Ganzo. Like I said, I'm not sure if they're a sister company, but Sanrenmu are the manufacturers of the former Benchmade Red Class knives. Now, Benchmade does not make the Red Class knife anymore, but the Red Class knives were their overseas-made knives, and Sanrenmu was the factory that produced them for Benchmade. Sanrenmu also makes the Chinese-made Spydercos, such as the Tenacious line, and their Bird line. And like I said, this may not be true, but this is what I've heard from a few other people here on YouTube. But when they signed the contract to make these knives for Benchmade, they also have the rights to make copies of other knives in their line. So this may or may not be a counterfeit, but it is an actual, it's an actual signed agreement that they are allowed to produce a knife that is an exact replica of another knife. So I wouldn't exactly consider this a knockoff. This is a replica. Consider this, this is a lower end version of a much more expensive, higher class knife. All right. So, like I said, I found this on eBay. You guys can get these on eBay. Just watch out where you buy them. Buy one from a U.S. dealer. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting about a month or two for that to have them shipped from China. Or it's like two to 3 weeks, actually. I'm sorry. But they're very reasonable. I paid $20 for this. Anyway, let's just get into the review. Obviously, you have that Benchmade licensed axis lock. So you guys get the reliability and the strength of an axis lock. Now, it is pretty much the same. I mean, I have not really seen any particular differences. I took this knife apart, and the springs used are shaped exactly like the Benchmade Omega springs, but you can tell they're made out of a much more inferior, I guess you say, metal. Not sure what it is, but it just looks, it's cheesier, if you will. Also, the inside tracks on mine, you can see where the axis lock rides, was extremely rough. I mean, very gritty. I mean, you could barely disengage the lock. So I had to take my Dremel, take the very, very small sanding bit, and just kind of route out the inside of it and smooth it out. Now it functions just fine. But you can tell where it was laser cut out, it was just very rough. It was not refined at all. But here again, Chinese made, off the wall brand, you get what you get. But you do have the strength and reliability of the axis lock. There is absolutely no play up and down on this knife whatsoever. Mine, however, did come with a little bit of side to side, and I've not been able to solve that at all. Now, sometimes when you have a little bit of side to side play open, you don't have any closed. But this knife closed, it has a lot of side to side play. Because you see that the blade is real thick, but the handle profile is real narrow. So what you have is not a lot of room between the blade and the inside of the handle. So what you have is a lot of rattle. The thing that bugs me about it is that you can even hear it inside your pocket. Anything taps up against this, you can hear it. And you can hear that inside of the pocket too. And it just bugs me. Are all of them like this? I have absolutely no idea. This is the only Ganzo knife I've ever owned. So I'm not sure. And not a lot of reviews here on YouTube that are in English that explain it either. But one of the things that struck me about this knife, well, the original H&K 14205, is the blade shape. You have that very, very nice, effective spear point blade. Very nice. Unlike most spear point blades, you have a very nice belly. Or spear point, you could also call it drop point. But generally, when you have a swedge that runs halfway all the way down to the tip, it's always a spear point. Usually. But take it, call it what you want. But very, very nice swedge up top. Comes to a very nice yet strong tip. The tip is not that sharp, to be honest, on this knife. But here again, that's a sharpening thing. I'm sure some of them may be sharper than others. Not sure, just saying this one. Not come very sharp. But that can aid in some of the utility work of this knife. And, the less brittle the tip is, it's just going to be a nice working knife for you. Blade length is about 3.5 inches, a little bit over, depending on where you measure from. Because you can see it has this kind of swooping design here. So, measuring from the furthest back point, which, if I'm not mistaken, if an officer were to measure your blade, I believe they measure from the highest point from the handle on, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's about 3.5 inches long. Almost all of that is the cutting edge, because you can see it does have a nice, the ricasso is recessed a lot, so that's pretty nice. The edge bevel was ground to perfection. Very nice, both sides, very even grind. I was very pleased with that. It did not come very sharp, but I sharpened it up myself. It is pretty dang sharp now. And you can see bead blasted blade. The steel on this is 440C, as you can see right there, and along with the model number G704. Now, 14 440C is not too prone to rusting, so the bead blasting may not be an issue. May or may not. It's just all, you know, how you treat your knife, where you have it stored, the applications using it for. But I've had fairly good experiences with bead blasted 440C. So you may not have to worry too much. You can always polish this up also. But it does come bead blasted just because the process of bead blasting is cheaper than to have it polished. So it is what it is. It doesn't look too bad. Just I generally don't prefer bead blasted blades. But here again, I paid $20 for the knife. Dual thumb studs, and they are removable. You can see the Torx slot, this Torx indents right there. It does have a really nice thumb wrap, and the jimping on this, if you can tell, nice fine cut jimping. The jimping is actually incredible on this knife. Like you can see my thumbnail getting white from where I'm pressing my thumb forward. You can see the mark on my thumb. Very nice jimping. Not uncomfortable at all. The jimping, you can't even hardly feel it, and yet it just locks your thumb in. That is jimping done right. So I will give Ganzo kudos for that. And not to knock Benchmade, but I guarantee that their application of the jimping was not as effective. I think most of you guys know Benchmade is pretty awful when it comes to jimping. I mean, just as a reference, you can see I actually did that, made it a little bit more jump. But you see on the bottom, jimping of this Osborne. So the jimping is actually incredible. Very nice. Handle ergonomics, awesome. You have a nice finger choil right here. And then the rest of it's just slightly curved inward. So it just makes it very comfortable. You know, there's not a lot of finger choils. There's nothing that really limits your grip options. It's just very comfortable. You can see it in my hand, some that sticks out. It is a fairly large knife. About 8 inches overall. 7.5 to 8 inches. So very nice. Very squared off design. But the edges are nicely beveled. Nice G10 scales here. They're not roughly textured at all. I mean, it is peel ply, but it's pretty much just flat. There is absolutely no texture there whatsoever. Here again, you can change that. You can make your own scales. You can even modify the existing ones. So not bad. Pillar construction. You can see the nice standoffs there. Non-skeletonized, thick stainless steel liners, which makes this knife pretty chunky. It's a pretty chunky knife. I'm honestly not sure as to the weight, because the weight was not listed anywhere that I found this knife. But if I had to guess, I would say probably around 5 ounces, 4.5, 5 ounces. That's just a rough guess. I'm not a stickler for the weight, so I'm not sure. But it is chunky. You can definitely feel it in your hand. But I like big knives. I like chunky knives because a knife is a tool. I want to feel it in my hand when I'm using it. Haha, no jokes. No jokes there, guys. But it is very comfortable. Ergonomics are very nice. Just when you lock your thumb into that jimping, very, very nice. Pocket clip is repositionable from left to right hand side, tip up only, which is good. I like tip up. And the pocket clip is an exact replica of the Bradley cutlery split arrow clip, which, you know, Bradley is owned by Benchmade, so that makes sense that it would be on this knife. So quality-wise, it feels exactly the same. May even be the same pocket clip entirely. But it is not. Benchmade puts a black DLC coating on theirs. This one is just black Teflon paint. But not bad. You see it doesn't have any wear on it. But it is very nice. It retains onto the pocket very nicely. And of course that G10, being as smooth as it is, does not abrade the pocket at all. So that's a good thing. Speed-wise, it's pretty dang fast. It's what you could expect from an axis lock. It is not as smooth or reliable as a Benchmade axis lock. Okay, because you can see the pegs of the lock do not stick out that far, like on a Benchmade. You can see the difference. And they're not really milled out. So it kind of takes a little bit of getting used to, because I'm used to being able to get them really easily. You know, even with just my thumb. So, not as easy to get to, but it's not bad. It just takes some getting used to. But it is very smooth. It flies out. You know, it has really good retention into the handle, like most Axis locks do. It just does not. It definitely does not feel the same. It doesn't have that same smooth quality to it. But anyway, that's the knife in a nutshell. I like it. I've been carrying it for a while now. Been using it as a beater knife. You can see it still has some paint on there where I opened a paint can with it when I painted my room this weekend. But it's not bad. I like it, but I only got it for nostalgia reasons. I got it because I love the knife that this replicates. Alright guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Drop them in the comments box. I'll be glad to answer them. Hope you enjoyed this review. And definitely guys, stay safe, stay sharp, and God bless. Sherman 614. Peace.